I'm Matt. This is Let's Talk Music. I am here with Ian Abel of the Ian Abel Band. How are we doing this evening, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great, man. Love talking to musicians. So I mean, it makes my evening.
I feel you. I feel you.
So you're about based out of Louisville.
Yes. Yeah. Wasn't originally when the whole IAB thing started up, we were actually in Los Angeles, but now due to circumstances, I'm in Louisville and I'll operate out of Louisville mostly and go back and forth between Nashville and there. And my drummer actually he's got a giant side of Austin. So he just built a really nice studio down there. So for a solid month this year, I'll probably be based out of there and
Okay.
recording some new music. And then he keeps trying to convince me to move down there, and I've never been, so I might go down there and fall in love. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's not a bad area. I drive a truck. That's my 9 to 5. I used
Mhm.
to be over the road though for about 14 years and been all over Texas. Big ass state, man. Big
Yeah,
state. But
yeah.
yeah, Austin's a nice area. Dallas, Fort Worth. Went to was it Arlington to see visit Dimebag Darrell's grave.
Mm.
Been all over that place. So yeah, you might like it down there if you like the country setting.
I do. I wish I had. It's in my truck. I've got a pick that was his at Nam. I ran into his wife and his I think cousin, the one who videoed everything. I believe it was his cousin, and we were talking just at Nam in like 2018 maybe, and um was talking about how like I'd ran into Dave Grohl at the Viper Room and things like that, and she was like, "Oh, I'm huge friends with Dave Grohl." I was like, "I know, everyone is," and she gave me this pick, and it says "Get your pool on" it as a dime bag pick, and I keep it just out of for luck and just out of respect to keep it in my truck at all times. Never played it, but wish I had it on me. It's downstairs right now.
Nice. So your new song "Eyes on You." Um, Kick ass jam. Really enjoyed it. And speaking of Los Angeles, you guys shot the video at the Troubadour.
hmm
So um I was hoping maybe the dancers were going to be interviewing with us too, but
Yeah, that'd be awesome, wouldn't it?
no, that's funny because I showed my boss your video this morning. He plays acoustic music, and
Uh-huh.
he was like, I said, hey, he's kind of bluesy, rocky. I said, he's got a mixture of genres, and I was like, here's the video, and he's like, so are the dancers going to be in it too? And I was like, I doubt it, but we could hope.
Yeah,
So
man.
so tell me about that, man. The video, I mean, it looks like it was a live performance, correct?
hmm
And so they just threw mixed the dancers in with it, or how did that go?
Yeah, we filmed. So I played the Troubadour, and I guess technically there was a bunch of us LA bands on there, and but I was the last one, so I guess I technically headlined it. And
Okay.
um it was a big, awesome event, awesome evening, and just great rock and roll music. And my friend had told me, he was like, dude, you have to film your show. And I said, you think so? And he was like, yeah, you'd be an idiot not to. And I said, all right, you're right. And so I got my buddy Mitch Park to film the whole show. And also I had him, I had Mitch, he did my music video for my song Shoes, and which
Hmm.
was also from the Troubadour as well. And I have this awesome footage from the Troubadour. And I was like, okay, what am I gonna do for a live video? And I was looking it over and I was like, God, this footage is awesome. I was like, okay, let's do that. And then I was sitting there thinking, because I talked to my friend Chelsea, who's one of the dancers in the video, and actually the one who got the other girls together and choreographed something for me before for a walkout. They're the same dancers from that video. And I hit her up and I was like, hey, I got this idea. You want to do something like we did before? and just let me know. And she took it and ran with it. She did the choreography and everything. And I just trusted her. I was like, okay, just we talked about spots to do it in and like, like the color of it all. But most of that is she did choreography and then she did a bunch of takes where they just improvised. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the cool, I mean, the choreography was great too, don't get me wrong, but a lot of the coolest stuff that they did was improvised. And I was just like, I did the video editing and I've gotten pretty good at video editing. And a lot of it just was so seamless for me because I would just drag it and they would like line up perfectly with something. I was like, okay, my job is so much easier now because of these professional dancers. And it just, it's a lot of, just like with everything, it's these days, especially, it seems like it's just kind of like you do something, you work with what you got. I think there was an old Roman saying, I believe, like one of the Caesars, I think said you go to war with the army you have, not the army you wish you have.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was, it's what I had. I had footage and I have some incredible friends that are so unbelievably talented. And I was like, I just got creative and said, okay, it's a song. It's got a dance beat to it. It's upbeat and it's got my drummer Kenny. I mean, everything he plays is just so rhythmically awesome. And so
Yeah.
all the beats that he lays down that they can play off of, and just it's just kind of like magical how those things intertwine. And I wish I could take more like creative credit for, but it's really much more of a managerial thing putting that together than anything.
Well, that's something that I noticed when I was playing the song. I don't know, probably about 20 minutes ago or something like that. I was playing it for my wife, and I was like, "Oh, it's got kind of a funk sound to it too," because you can hear the guitar that just it sounds kind of funky in the background. I was like, "You
Yeah.
hear that?" And she's like, "Yeah," and I was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." So I mean, it's a really great song. I mean, I enjoyed it from beginning to end. Really enjoyed the video. You did a great job saying, you edited it all, so that's hell yeah. But like, how do you feel about making videos? Do you enjoy it, or is it like kind of a, oh, we got to do this again?
Um, it's a lot more like, oh no, what am I going to do this time? Because I've got more songs that I need to put out, and everything's video content now. I'm like, especially everything's like pushing TikTok heavy, and they're like, you need 1,000 different short videos for
Mhm.
this, and it's like, I mean, it's tough because if I was in college, you're like 18 or something, and you have a lot more time then. It's like, okay, sure, I'll go down here and do this, I'll go there. But it's for me, I like the process of editing. I like editing videos. Coming up with ideas is fun and all. It's just having to then sit down and come up with the game plan of making it happen. And then there's always a twist and turn where your idea doesn't, you're like, we're going to do this. And then actually something, a roadblock of some sorts gets in the way. So you got to be creative, figure out how to swerve it. And I, I also like the short form content. Just branching off of that, I don't really enjoy that stuff as much. Like I'm trying to like keep the TikTok stuff going and things.
Mhm.
It's to me, a lot of that is maybe I'm just not creative enough to see it. But I like long videos.
Right.
Like you're wearing a Pink Floyd shirt. That's my favorite band of all time. Like Pink Floyd,
Oh, that's the Division Bell, 1994.
that's awesome.
I went and
They,
seen that concert here.
oh God, I'm so jealous.
Last concert, actually, the last tour that they did was the Division Bell. They did it. You familiar with the Ohio
As
State Buckeyes? Oh,
oh yeah.
okay. So their stadium is called the Horseshoe, and
Mm-hmm.
that's where they played at. And I bought the tickets off of a scalper, two of them for like $100, and we had the second deck, like fourth row, right by the stage. It was phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm so jealous. I never obviously never got to see Pink Floyd. I've seen Roger Waters twice do the Wall tour, and my favorite concert of all time is David Gilmour came to the Hollywood Bowl, and I charged the credit card on that one because that's my guy. That's my favorite guitarist. I said, I'm going. I'm getting up close. I don't care. had to been like 30, 50 feet from him, and at the Hollywood Bowl, for anyone who hasn't been there, it's like an iconic place, but I don't like it because everyone sits down. And I'm from Kentucky originally, so I'm a stand up, we're hooting and hollering.
Right.
And so everyone, you got your box seats and everyone's eating and sitting down. And I walked in there and I might have had a little buzz on. I told everyone around, I said, "Hey, I'm sorry, like if you're behind me, but I'm standing up the whole show. I didn't pay for these seats to see David Gilmour and sit down like some prude. I'm going to be up dancing." And luckily, other people around would stand up too. Like I feel like I helped empower them, and maybe it was like the bottle of wine and the bourbon that I bought during the show that also helped me do it. But it got quiet at one point. And I was like, "Gilmore, you're the effing man," and he's like, "Thank you." And I was like, "Oh." He knows I exist in some format of life.
Right. He heard
You
my
know,
voice.
he answered me. Holy crap! But that, I mean, I cried during Comfortably Numb solo. I was like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, I never thought I would see David Gilmour live
He
ever.
is a phenomenal, phenomenal guitar player.
Just everything he does. There's a cool podcast. I can't remember what it's called, but this guy was interviewing Steve Lukather, who, if anybody doesn't know Steve Lukather, he's played on everything. He's in Toto. He's been on Michael Jackson records. Just incredible guitar player. And he was even talking because he got in a bus crash and hurt his hand real bad. And he's not as fast as he used to be, he said, which is still wicked fast.
Right.
But he said that it's fine because he doesn't really want to be the shreddy guy anymore. He's like, I just want to be like David Gilmour. And I was like, yeah, man, me too. Who doesn't?
Right.
If Steve Lukather says that, then obviously it's right.
Yeah, I mean, there's very few people that have made a guitar sound like David Gilmour. I mean,
It's,
he's
yeah.
the God. They were one of the just. I mean, when they came to town, man, I remember our local radio station, 99.7 The Blitz. They had a band. It was called the Blitz Band, and they actually got to play, open up for them.
Wow.
And it was just kind of a something to fill the spot. You know what I mean? They didn't have anybody else. It was them and then Pink Floyd. Pink Floyd played for like 3.5 hours, but they had, I think it was like 16 buses, like 35 semis. I mean, they came rolling into town like an entourage, man. I mean, and the freaking stage show was unlike anything I've ever seen. And I've been to a lot of concerts. I mean, obviously I love music because I'm doing this, but
Mhm.
it's I've been to a lot of shows and I've never in my life seen a stage show like Pink Floyd. I
I
mean,
I've got like the Pulse DVD, and I see it. I
that's
can.
from the Division Bell. They called it Pulse, but that's from that tour.
That's that tour.
Yeah.
That's a nasty tour. When Gilmore hits the end of the solo and he turns on that second delay pedal and that thing comes down. Oh
Mhm.
God,
Or like when
unbelievable.
they did Shine Your Crazy Diamond and that thing come up out of the middle of the crowd and start,
Oh yeah.
yeah, that was badass. But
Oh my
anyways, man, let's get back to you. So I get that one of your influences. I read this from Pink Floyd to Chris Stapleton. So like you're going from classic rock to country or maybe rockabilly or whatever. But you also mentioned Foo Fighters, stuff like that. So like other influences in the middle there. Who are those?
Oh man, it's such a hard. That's such a hard question because most people say, you'll hear everyone be like, I listen to everybody. And it's like, no, no, I legit will listen. I have huge jazz influences.
I
I
can
love,
tell.
yeah, I love stuff like the Mahavishnu Aura. I think I'm saying that one right. So big jazz influences. Pat Metheny, love him. His playing. Met George Benson once and geeked out. And I was like, I was like, dude, holy crap. Uh, how do you scat and solo at the same time? It's incredible. I
Right.
love bluegrass music. Obviously, with the Stapleton, like the country, a lot of the country influence is just the heart of the songwriting in country music is just to me unparalleled through the decades. And I would also argue with anyone that Wish You Were Here could be classified as a classic country song but that's another debate for another time.
Well,
Uh,
according to the media, it fits right in with Wizard of Oz.
yeah,
So,
I've never paired the two up, but I have watched it on YouTube. People have done that, and you're like,
mhm.
oh, that's pretty uncanny how it does that. But yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
the whole
jazz.
album, Dark Side of the Moon, they said was. I was like, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think Joe Rogan asked Roger Waters that, and he said no, of course not. He's like, but it is pretty interesting how they match up. I'm like, okay, Roger, you're not telling me the truth. I know
Well,
it.
that's back when acid was popular.
Yeah. We honestly we could use a resurgence of that popularity because to me a lot of things are a lot of art is dry these days, and
Yes.
I don't really understand. I think I truly blame like taking music education out of the schools, but because a lot of people don't, I don't think truly appreciate when you like watch an old clip of Van Halen or Randy Rhodes or even Motley Crue doesn't get enough respect because it's like, do you hear what they recorded? And like now imagine that they were all don't remember it. They were out of their minds
Hmm.
at the record. The red button came on, and the red light came on, and they were like on heroin, drunk, cocaine, everything. And they're like, all right, let's go just write hit after hit after hit and play
Right.
them with epic precision. That's another. I saw Motley Crue back in the day in like early 2000 on like one of their first reunion tours, and
Yeah, I've never seen them, and that's one I've always wanted to see.
that was at least then. It's when like Vince Neil broke his leg on the tour, and
Mm.
it was awesome. You get there and it's just like naked girls everywhere. And I'm like, I'm a teenager at that point. I was like, I love rock and roll. This is as good as it gets, I
Hell
think.
yeah, that's the saying, sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Amen. Amen.
But yeah, I mean, if you want to go with something like that, Bill Ward from Black Sabbath, when they did the Heaven and Hell album with Ronnie James Dio,
Mm-hmm.
he does not remember any of the recording of that album at all.
That's nuts.
And I'm like, man, and Bill Ward is a very intricate drummer. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, if you ever watch, if you listen to War Pigs, it sounds like he's got a Neil Peart sized drum set, but
Mm-hmm.
he actually is playing like a 7 piece.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is back in the 70s. This dude's just rocking his ass off. So I mean, I get where a lot of musicians draw influence from 70s, 60s, 80s, 90s. I mean, it's I think that those were some of the best eras of music. And
Untouchable.
yeah,
It's like I would put them up there with like the lyrics and the songwriting and the truthfulness of like 50s country, even because the truthfulness coming from the music alone on your 70s rock and roll. I mean, from the Who, everything the Who did was incredible. Black Sabbath, a lot of people, you think Black Sabbath, you think Ozzy, Prince of Darkness, you think they're heavy, but really, like you brought up the drummer, that band grooved hard. Like they were like really more of a groove metal band because
right.
they had these dark lyrics. I mean, really thought provoking lyrics, like to War Pigs. Still to this day, War Pigs stands true. And but the drums and the bass, I mean, they grooved hard, and
Oh
that's
yeah.
a to me. I think that's missing in a lot of music too. Is that Black Sabbath, you could argue that they were danceable, like no one was really dancing to them, but they would make you bop. And like
And that was in the hippie days. So I mean, there probably was people
yeah,
dancing.
dancing and back to they were dancing on acid again. There's a live show of them. I can't remember what concert it is, but they play War Pigs, and it's just out of this world. The old vintage footage, and you're just like, it comes up on YouTube every once in a while. Every time I watch it, every time.
Two interesting facts though about Black Sabbath, and this is why I call this Let's Talk Music, because we've touched on your music, but we're also talking about other music. So I don't like to be, do you do this, do you do that? I
Mhm.
try to mix it up and just have a conversation. So, but two interesting facts about Black Sabbath is Geezer Butler was actually a rhythm guitarist, and he played his bass as a rhythm part. So it was usually, the bass follows the drums. Well, the drums followed the bass in that band.
Hmm.
Then another one is these three fingers from Tommy Iommi are gone. The
Yeah.
tips of them. Yeah, he
Yeah,
lost them in a work accident.
and that's why he also detuned his guitar too, and with lighter gauge strings, so it's easier to play.
Hmm.
It was
I mean, a lot of people don't know that. I mean, and like you said, people think of Black Sabbath, they think of Ozzy and this and that, but I mean, the Ronnie James Dio era was really good too.
God, Dio was awesome.
Yes, he
Dio
was.
was so awesome.
I loved him as growing up, man. So I
It
actually got to see him in concert before he passed away. Him and Lemmy. I seen Motorhead. It was Motorhead, or it was Dio, Motorhead, and Iron Maiden together.
Wow, what a show. What
That
a freaking
was,
show.
yeah. So speaking of being, out playing, what's your plans for 2023, man? You gonna be hitting the road at all?
Well, I'd like to do like more, not a traditional tour, but I definitely want to do more pop-in shows because being in Louisville, I'm 3 hours from Columbus, three and a
Mhm.
half. I'm an hour from Cincy, 2.5 from Nashville. I want to pop into these different cities, and because I've got a lot of friends from Columbus, which is wild. You brought up Ohio State. And so they're always like, you need to come up here and play. And I got friends in Dayton. I'm like, okay, this year, now that things have settled a little bit more, we can make it happen. But I do plan on playing in Austin too, because we're gonna go record. And so the
Right.
plan is to record a record or a bunch of songs to drop and then go to Austin and play. And I mean that's an hour from not far from San Antonio too. So I'm gonna try to do a lot of pop-in shows is the game plan, as well as I want to get more into the Louisville scene here because Louisville's got a pretty interesting little like songwriter musician scene
Mm-hmm.
and a really good radio station down here. So I'm gonna try my best to get involved with that and see if I can't make some connections there and just rock and roll with some people down here too.
Hell yeah. Have you heard of the band Wild Ride?
No,
They're from down there. I did an interview with them. They're kind of a heavily 80s influenced band,
nice.
and really enjoyed their sound. The guy I did an interview with the guy. He was in his car, so I put the title like an exclusive in car, you know, interview with. So I try to make it the title attractive. People they see interview with this person, interview with this person, they're like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like I said, for me, it's just out of my love of music. I mean, I I love talking to musicians. I love the different people that I've met so far. Like, I mean, out of all the interviews, I think you're maybe my 120th, 121st. Out of all those, I've done like three big names. The lead singer from Steelheart, Keith Wallen from Breaking Benjamin, and Tommy Vex from Bad Wolves.
Mm.
But everybody else has been independent artists, bands that not many people have heard of. And shit, man, I was driving home from work on Friday, and a band that I did, I believe it's another one of Tom's bands, Above Snakes. Uh, they were actually on. We have our rock station 99.7. We have they call it Choose It or Lose It, and they went up against August Burns Red, and of course August Burns Red won, but I called in twice and was like above snakes,
Yeah.
And I wanted to message the guys like, hey man, you were just on the local radio station, but I mean that's what's really cool is like stuff is starting to reach out this way, and you know I know that radio play is extremely important to you guys because you get heard, then people are looking you up on YouTube or whatever. So I mean, you were talking about the shorts with TikTok, and that now YouTube has shorts. And a lot of people have told me that I need to do that too, and I'm like, well, how do I do a short with my interviews? Because they're usually I was told, oh, you should keep them around 10 or 15 minutes long. And I'm like, I can't do that because I love talking to these people. you know,
Yeah.
it's like, they're very interesting to me. Like man, I'm telling you, my love for music is insane. Like I've seen the Steve Perry concert from freaking New York City on New Year's Eve, and I listened to the beginning of "Don't Stop Believing," dude, and the hair stood up on my arms.
That song is so good. That
I
song is
mean,
so good.
it's epic, dude. That's like the ultimate freaking arena anthem.
Yeah.
So,
I think it's top five best songs of all time. Like it just never gets old ever.
and I mean, could you just imagine that the feeling of being? I think he's 73 years old now. The staying power of that song. And I mean, they've got other songs too that have stayed, but I mean, my God, Don't Stop Believing is everywhere.
Yeah, people sleep on Journey, and that's a mistake. People sleep on Journey hard, and that's a mistake.
Yeah.
They're so awesome. Everything about them is top notch. The songwriting, the musicianship, I mean, the chords, the song structures, everything is so good.
Oh,
Neil
yeah.
Sean's guitar playing, get out of here. It's so good.
So speaking of guitar playing, man, like who influenced you to play guitar?
Well, the original influence was the movie School of Rock, starring Jack Black. I
Okay.
saw I saw that and I was hooked immediately. Literally hooked. Like Jack Black changed my life. It's astounding. A kid's movie changed my life. Um and so after I picked up guitar and then you go down the road of everyone gets into Hendrix and Zeppelin and things like that. And Gilmore's been the biggest one for sure. Like I use like a Ram's head, muff pedal. And I have like a booster. It's like a color sound similar to it, running into it, and like um. So obviously him. I'm huge. God, all the guitar players. I mean, like Steve Lukather, Frank Zappa, Steve Vai. Okay, so out of all another one, out of all the people who took lessons from Joe Satriani at one point.
Mm-hmm.
You hear like Kurt Hammett or whatever, and then everyone thinks Steve Vai. And like, yeah, Steve Vai is definitely, top five greatest guitar players of all time. But there's a guy named Kevin, I think it's Kevin Cottigan. I think I'm saying his name right. And he was the guitar player for Third Eye Blind.
Yeah.
And I will argue to this day that he is, I think, the most accomplished somehow of all the guitar students that took with Joe Satriani, because everything he played on that first Third Eye Blind record was incredible. Every
That's
guitar part was all the guitar solos, like lead. They weren't solos; they were lead sections. They were like they were solos on the way that like the Beatles or someone would write, where they were melodic. They weren't like shredding solos, and everything is so catchy that he plays on that whole first Third Eye Blind record, which like if you cut maybe three or four songs from that first one, I think that's maybe a perfect album. But it's like typical of the 90s, late 90s, where they cram like how many songs can we get on a record.
right.
They would have been a little bit more tasteful and cut a few, like four of them towards the end. I think that record would be held in even more high esteem than it already is. But Kevin Cottigan, shout out to that guy, because most people don't know his name, and everything he wrote was just incredible.
Yeah, I
Incredible.
seen them when they was supporting that album, them and I think if I remember right, they opened up for Smash Mouth.
Yeah. The crazy thing is, I bet they did, because they had the same. Eric Valentine was the producer of both Smash Mouth's first and second record, Astro Lounge. Was that? I think that's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And, uh, that original Third Eye Blind record, and neither of those bands had any money. Smash Mouth actually owed Eric Valentine for a while, I believe, and he was just a poor dude who was in, I think, was it T Rex maybe, and then instead of taking money up front to go record a record, he got the label to give him money to buy awesome equipment. And so he then used that to then record those albums, and they both broke out with Semi Charmed. Is it? Yeah, Semi Charmed, and the first
Walking
big
on the
smash.
Sun.
Yeah, first Big Smash Mouth. Those are he
Yeah,
recorded those two like simultaneously, like every other day was the other one, and then they both came out at the same time, blew his career up, because he's one of the greatest producers ever. But it's hilarious that of course they would tour together because they're so interconnected. And I mean, Smash Mouth is another one. I know it's become kind of cliche because like Shrek and things like that, but
right,
you can't take anything away from Walking on the Sun. That's
right.
like, especially if you're hanging out by a pool and you've been day drinking a little bit and that comes on, dude. I don't care. I don't care who you are. You're bopping to that song. Smash Mouth rules. I'll say it here. I'll say it now, and I'll say this that we were too rude to Nickelback too. I'm not
Yes.
a huge Nickelback guy, but I'll stand up for them right now. They didn't deserve all that hate.
I seen them probably two or three times at concert. The one time I remember the most was they opened up for Seether, and
So
oh yeah, it was an awesome concert. And Chad Kroger come out and did a song with Seether, and it was more guitar playing, but he did a little bit of singing, and I was like, man, that was really cool. Man, there's been a lot of bands that have been passed over. I mean, it's I guess I think now it's less of a mainstream thing than it used to be. But
uh-huh.
back then, if you was, off the beaten path, you wasn't getting as much love from, the magazines, whatever type of media that was promoting it, and it's I think that that's kind of why I do what I do is I want people to get off the beaten path and see these bands that are I've done them from Europe. I've done a band from what, Italy, Finland, Ireland, and it's like you get off the beaten path and you find all these amazing bands. You can't just, I think, listen to what's on the radio because it's the same thing over and over and over and over. You know what I mean? It's not like they don't really expand out there. And I mean, we have, um, it's a local thing that's like an hour on a Friday or on a Saturday or whatever. It might be 2 hours. I can't remember, but I've recommended some of the bands because I know a couple of the DJs there. I actually know the producer, and they're just like, well, we need their people to submit it, and I'm like, well, shit. So, I'm contacting their people and they're submitting it, and I just don't hear it, and I'm like, damn it. So,
Yeah,
what I want to do in the future is I want to start a podcast. This is just, I do interviews, I put it on YouTube. I want to start a podcast, and I want people like yourself to submit your music to me so that during my podcast, I can do, so let's just say it's 30 minutes, an hour long, whatever. I can do, 10 or 15 minutes about music news and this and that. And then I want to play music from the bands that have submitted music. Like, okay, here's this band, did an interview with them, really cool people. They're from here, check them out. Here's the song, so it gets heard.
yeah,
That's like my whole goal, man. It's like I'm your guys' biggest cheerleader. You know what I'm saying? I want to get your music out there. Like I said, Eyes on You. I listen to Shoes and Walk Out too. And that's why I was talking about the dancers. Yep, I noticed that. But I mean, really enjoyed Eyes on You, and it wasn't the hot chicks. The music was awesome,
uh-huh.
and my hat's off to you, buddy. I mean,
Thank you.
you guys have a great thing going, and I would love to see you up here in Columbus. We have a couple of good venues that are smaller venues that hold about 500-600 people, but they pack them. King of Clubs, Ace of Cups. uh if you got a booking agent or whatever, look up King of Clubs because that guy actually supports local acts more than anybody because he was in the band X Factor One, the guy that owns it.
Okay. So he knows. He gets the grind.
Yes. So like, I mean, they've had some big ones in there. They had Lacuna Coil, they had you know, all kind. I did a couple interviews there with I did one with Saliva, otherwise. but they also have just I think it was like 3 weeks in a row they had like just local bands, and it was 5 or 6 of them, and it was different ones each time.
Oh,
So
that's
yeah, you get a chance, look them up, King Clubs. Like I said, you got a booking agent, have him give him a call, man. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
it's a badass venue. And they pack it all the time. People just love going there because you don't pay $10 a beer. It's like $3, 3.50 or $4 a beer, and they serve awesome food, and the food isn't like $25 for a damn pizza. It's the guy's really reasonable, and like I said, he was in a local band,
yeah.
so he
I
does
love that.
under.
I love that. King of Clubs. All right, I'll pass that along because then we'll come up there and rock it out.
Oh yeah, man, would love to
Bring
see you
that
up here.
We'll bring that thunder.
Oh yeah, maybe we'll sit down and do a live one. I got me some wireless mics and everything, man. We'll look all fucking professional.
Hell yeah. Only if we do it over bourbon though.
Well, I've got scotch right now, so
Okay, Scott, you're classier than I am.
well, I like bourbon too. I just, it's Johnny Walker Red Label, man. That ain't classy.
That's fine. Neither am I.
All right, brother. Well, I'm about out of time here. I got 1 minute left on my Zoom, so I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for
Everybody,
having me.
check this man out, Ian Abel Band. Eyes on You, the new video,
Yeah,
freaking
get
awesome.
get your merch, get your outlaw tee. Hell
And I will post all that to the description, man. Your website and everything. So we'll get you going,
awesome.
buddy.
Hell yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, thank you for being on, and you have a good evening, man.
See you, man. I'll see you.
All right, bye.